Hey guys, thanks for coming back to my channel. It's Kevin here, and we've got another weekly wrap-up video to do. This one's going to end up being put up late. You probably have noticed already that I missed putting up last week's video. So yeah, it is running a little bit behind, but I am going to get it up because I feel like these fragrances deserve to be talked about, and I want to talk about some of them. Better late than never. I'm several days late now at this point. So let's get right into this video. Last week, I will say this, I did not have, again, for the second week in a row, a fragrance that I wore on Monday. So if you're new to this channel, this is a series where we just kind of wrap up my scent of the days for the week prior. And in this case, we're gonna kind of go back a few days. So it's last Sunday, all the way through the prior Monday. So we're a few days behind here. And this one right here, we're gonna kick it off with last Sunday's scent of the day. And it's this one right here from Byredo, one of my all-time favorite fragrances. Pulled it out a little bit earlier this year than I normally do, but it really did feel great to wear it, and it really felt right too. So for late February, we've been having quite a bit of a warm up here. Relatively early spring for what we normally go through. It's this one right here, and that is Pulp from Byredo. And I actually have 3 bottles of this stuff in my collection. One thing I always wondered that, if people actually believe me whenever I tell them, I've gone through a certain amount of bottles, or if I have a certain amount in my collection. I never really hoard them like, endless amounts of bottles. But you'll see this occasionally, and it's very rarely that I'll currently have this many bottles of the same fragrance in my collection. But yeah, I've always wondered if people actually believe me with that. And believe it or not, there's 3 different versions of Pulp that I have. And when I say versions, it's still the same fragrance. It's just the labels that have changed over the years, and they've kind of altered just ever so slightly the formulation of the fragrance. But I have these 2 older bottles of Pulp. That's the 100 ml that I just showed. And then I have a 50 ml that's essentially emptied, not quite yet, but a 50 ml of Pulp as well. And then I have a newer Pulp, which does not have, Byredo Parfums written at the top like this one does. That's an older version of Pulp. And any Byredo fragrances that you see Byredo Parfums up at the top of the label, that's going to be an older version. So if you ever do find one of those, snatch it up. They're not really growing on trees anymore, the older versions. They're still the same fragrances, but altered just ever so slightly occasionally when a house will do something like that. And that was my scent of the day for Sunday. Pulp, it's such a juicy, pulpy fig fragrance. I mean, there is blackcurrant in this for days, and blackcurrant is the lead note in this fragrance. I think there's even the note of red apple and of course fig as well. I get a lot of really dark, juicy, ripe fruits in Pulp. I was actually surprised to see a lot of people consider this a fig fragrance. And then it kind of hit me, there is something green about it. It's kind of a wet greenness about it. But really, you can't ignore those really dark, deep red fruits too. And as far as blackcurrant goes, there is no other fragrance that I've ever owned that is more blackcurrant dominant. If you were to ever ask me, if somebody were ever to come up to me and ask me, what's a really good, probably the fragrance that reminds you the most of blackcurrant, Pulp. You wouldn't even have to get the words out, Pulp. That's what it is. I wouldn't even go for a second option at this point. Pulp is so juicy, so wonderful. And yeah, the older bottles do last a little bit longer. You can kind of even tell, let me show you here on camera. You can kind of even tell the color in the juice. This one is definitely more clear. So that's, very crystal clear actually, compared to this one right here, which almost has a yellow tint to it. I mean, it's not real exaggerated or anything, but you can definitely notice it. And that is the older bottle of Pulp, which I do enjoy wearing more than this one right here. And then on Saturday, which was a gorgeous late winter, early spring feeling day at least. I mean, it felt like spring, and it has for quite a while. for at least a few weeks now. And we're gonna be up in the 80s again here coming up this weekend. So, and this one right here coming up from Creed. This is my rice cooking in the microwave fragrance. It's a great day to be alive when I put this one on. Original vetiver. I think I've even talked about this one here recently as well, but original vetiver, a really clean, soapy fragrance, neroli vetiver. And probably one of the soapiest, clean feeling fragrances that I've ever owned. Just feels like a really nice high-end soap, maybe that you would find in a 5-star hotel or something like that. Original vetiver from Creed. One of my go-tos when it's really starting to feel like spring outside. It's one that I love pulling out from Creed. And then the day before that, which was Friday, another example of how spring has really come into Oklahoma here recently, because I normally won't pull this one out until we're a good ways into spring, maybe even to summer to some degree. And it's this one right here from Eldo, and that is You or Someone Like You. Now, for all of the mint lovers out there that love a little bit of a grassiness, a green grassiness in your fragrance, yeah, You or Someone Like You should be at the very top of your list. I've heard rumblings about this fragrance being discontinued or the possibility of it being discontinued, and I can neither confirm or deny that, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. This one's been around for a bit, so, and it's probably one of Eldo's more popular fragrances as well. So You or Someone Like You, a lot of fresh green mint, even a green grassiness to this fragrance, and a little bit of a slight base of maybe some white florals. It's not a real floral heavy fragrance by any means. You might catch a whiff of jasmine here or there, but it's mostly kind of centered around that almost soapy, fresh, very fresh minty fragrance. We're talking about a fresh mint here, so not a sweeter peppermint or even spearmint. No, this is a fresh mint. Even comes across as somewhat green grass-like. Love that one. You or Someone Like You. I actually currently have 2 bottles of this one, and I've owned 4 total since I've first started getting into that fragrance. And then the day before that one, it was Thursday, and it was this fragrance that I talked about here recently in the spring fragrances that I could not wait to wear. And it's this one right here from Hermes. And yeah, I literally could not wait to wear this one. Jardin A SAT, a fragrance here that came out in 2023. And that's one thing you'll notice about this past week, and for that matter, even most of my weekly wrap-ups, is that most of the fragrances I'm talking about are not going to be brand new releases. That's one thing about this channel that you can really always kind of count on, is unlike the bigger channels, I'm not really in a race to put out videos focusing on reviews of brand new fragrances. I don't really have that crutch to worry about on this channel. And while there are a lot of new fragrances that are very appealing to me, and I do purchase new fragrances quite a bit, brand new releases, and I have a few even from 2024, it's not really something that I focus this channel around. So I'm not real anxious to get the bottles as quickly as possible and put reviews out before any other channel. That's not something I really have to worry about. I'm honestly just worried about giving things attention that I know I love. And I can really kind of do that. And that's one thing you'll notice about my past week, my weekly wrap up in fragrances. Most of these are not new fragrances. This is really the only new one. And it was a 2023 release from last year, probably summer of 2023. So everything else is at least 3 years old here. Yeah, that's one thing that I don't really focus on, is having to review and buy and purchase the new releases and always talk about those on my channel. Yeah, it's not something that I'm worried about. Jardin A SAT, I love this one. I love it more and more each time I wear it. And I have tried this one out on skin many times prior to wearing it this year for the first full wearing that I've ever used it with. And I have noticed the more that I put this one on skin, the more that I try it out, the more that I wear it, the more attached I grow to it. So I really like that one from Hermes, Un Jardin A SAT. That was my fragrance for Thursday. And for Wednesday, it's one I just mentioned. I think this one is 3 years old. It might be 2 years old, but it's this one from YSL, and that is Lavalier. I mentioned this fragrance in my top rose fragrance video. It's really centered around rose and fig, but there are a lot of other green, even herbal, some citrusy notes here too as well. This is so immensely fresh to wear, and I'd never really given it a real solid wearing before. I mean, as you can see, I've tried it out many times prior. This one's one that I really haven't worn in the past couple of years, since I first purchased it the year that it came out. So it was really nice revisiting this. It is just ever so slightly a little bit feminine leaning for me, but it's not so feminine that I don't feel comfortable wearing it. No, not at all. Actually, the complete opposite of that. It felt great putting this fragrance on and wearing it as my scent of the day on Wednesday. Lavalier, I actually got more of that green, slightly sweet fig more than the rose, I would say, this past wearing. But Lavalier, beautiful, men and women, would highly recommend that one to you. Performs very well. And for the price you're gonna pay for this one, being in their more privé line of fragrances, it's actually probably one of their more less pricey in that privé line of fragrances. So, and then on Tuesday, the last fragrance I have here to talk about, because of course I didn't have another scent of the day for Monday again this week. It's this one right here from Bond number 9, and it is Lafayette Street. And this was also in my fragrances that I'm looking forward to wearing this spring video. And this one is, oh boy, that's the orange blossom in this. That's so unique. I mean, there are fragrances this gets compared to. I've seen the list. There's some that it is definitely has a reminiscent feel to it. You put this on and you've owned some of those. I've seen comparisons to fragrances like this, that citrusy kind of creamy fragrances that have maybe a little bit of an ambery touch or a sweet touch to them, maybe vanilla or tonka bean, and that orange blossom / neroli kind of white floral feel to the fragrance. Really nice. The creaminess is just right. Not too heavy from the amber either, so probably even feels like tonka bean a little bit more than amber here. Just a really nice creamy sweetness to it. Bond number 9's Lafayette Street. That was my scent of the day for last Tuesday, not this week's Tuesday. So we went pretty far back with this weekly wrap up. That's another week. Hopefully I can get this video put up tonight. So I'm filming this on Friday. Hopefully I can get it put up tonight because I do have a couple of other videos I need to film. There you guys have it. Thanks for tuning in late to my weekly wrap up video. Keep an eye out for a couple of hauls and a what I'm burning video coming up soon on this channel. Appreciate you guys watching. I'll talk to you soon. See you.